Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are returning to War in the Pacific, Admirals Edition, our Let's Play series against Hartwig now. It started out with XTRG, moved on to Lieutenant Rainbow Slash, then we hit up Lodbrick, and now we are on our fourth opponent, Hartwig. Captain Shipwreck, by the way, thank you very much for the sub, appreciate the support. It is April 28th of 1942, and we are getting into the interesting part of the war, I think. Hartwig is still just sort of taking over, so things have been relatively quiet, although I will say he's been more aggressive in certain ways, and I think more competent in certain ways, given his expertise of 15 plus years of War in the Pacific experience than some of our previous opponents, who were mostly new or playing. I think they were all playing their first or second games of War in the Pacific, so polar opposite. With that being said, we are getting into the air operation phase here. Nothing much happened at night, and now we're getting into the recon phase. It's good to see you too, Junio. It's been, you know, like you said, not super frequent, but I haven't been streaming very frequently either. My goal is to make a change, to do it more often, but life is life sometimes. All right, so we've got an air battle that's shaping up over Batavia. The Japanese have been much more aggressive in trying to deal our Air Force there a blow, and you can see here 12 Japanese Oscars are coming in. I don't know where they're sweeping from. The 12 Japanese Oscars are sweeping over Batavia. We've got some P-40Es and some Hurricanes up on cap, and we will see how this plays out. We got an Oscar right off the bat. But it looks like they just came back and got a Warhawk, and now they're damaging some of our additional aircraft. These are all Dutch squadrons, so they're flying British and American aircraft, but they are squadrons with Dutch pilots. Looks like we're bringing in some more Warhawks in to help even the odds a bit. You can see they were on basically flying cap, so some additional planes scrambled up to meet them in the air battle, making things a little bit more even numbers-wise. The Warhawk is nice and durable, so the Japanese can put a lot of ammo into it, and it can survive, especially with, I think, is the 1C Oscar, does that have the cannon, or is it just the lighter machine guns? I think it has the cannon. I think the A is the one that has, like, no firepower. So the Japanese are nice and maneuverable. Either way, the Americans are much more durable. It doesn't look like we're getting much in the way of shots on the Oscars, but not a lot of Warhawks being destroyed, although we did see one Warhawk dive away there due to oil trouble. 9 of the Oscars that were sweeping made it through to the objective. You can see we had a total of 9 aircraft on our end engaging the 12 Japanese. It looks like 1 and 1, but we'll have to see what the actual losses are in the turn. Will we get a second ace? Who knows? Meanwhile, the Japanese are using Ki-51 Sonyas to bomb our forces at Bataan. They're hitting the runway there. Presumably, they're going for the supply because we don't have any aircraft there. No supply hits, though, so that's good for us. Not that there's a lot of supply to be hit there. Meanwhile, they also did launch an air attack at Quy Linh, where we were pulling our aircraft away, so you may have remembered. But we had a fair bit of medium bombers based at Quy Linh, and then I want to say we had a couple of B-17s based at another base in China. The Japanese reconned those objectives last turn, which told us that they were probably going to come in to make a strike where they saw aircraft. And so they did that. It looks like 1 Sally was damaged by flak. They got 4 runway hits and 1 airbase hit. I believe we pulled all the aircraft out. Certainly we pulled all the serviceable aircraft out of there. So no damage to any aircraft on the ground. We also have a bombing raid coming in on Savi, the Japanese guard troops there, that most eastern and southern of Japanese bases that they've taken here. So we had 12 A-20 Havocs and 3 B-26 Marauders coming in. They flew out of Pago Pago, just about 120 miles away. We got 2 airbase hits, 1 supply hit, and 4 runway hits against the enemy, dropping our 6 500-pounders from the Marauders and 4 500-pounders from the Havocs. We have a second raid coming in here with 9 Marauders, so 9 more B-26s, and 23 P-40E Warhawks. I forgot to switch the Warhawks over out of ground attack, so they were on ground attack last turn. I think we attacked and lost like 3 aircraft. It was bad. We lost a bunch of aircraft last turn. This time we didn't lose anything, so much more efficient raid here. The B-26s came in dropping their 6 500-pounders. The 23 P-40Es came in dropping their 500-pounders, their individuals. And we inflicted 103 casualties on the enemy with 6 combat squads disabled. That's pretty considerable considering the Japanese only have, as far as our recon could tell, I think it was 1 guard unit. I think it's the 51st Naval Guard Unit. For them to lose 6 combat squads disabled is a pretty successful raid, especially without any losses on our own end. That may make any kind of landing there considerably easier for a relatively small force. We don't have a ton of troops to send in, although we'll probably drop at least a Marine regiment to kind of make sure we've got the overkill that we need. The more Japanese that are disabled, the easier the time we're going to have in defeating them. Okay, so we're into, I believe, the PM scouting phase now. Bunch of recon going on here. Some Oscars sweeping over Quilin. All right, let's speed through this a bit. We've got some more ANs bombing some of our ground troops here in central China. They didn't do any damage, and we shot one down with flak. 14 IDAs hitting those troops at Quilin again. Actually, the airfield. 2 airbase hits, 1 supply. Or sorry, 2 airbase hits, 1 supply hit, 7 runway hits. So that runway probably took a fair bit of damage there. That makes me wonder if he may also be considering a southern sweep, but that could have just been because of identifying potential aircraft there. All right, so we've got the USS Haddock is launching torpedoes at a light transport here south of Toyohara. The torpedoes appear to have missed. Escorts attacking the sub, doing no damage. So we fired 2 torpedoes, no hits, and the enemy counterattacked and did no damage. I'm not sure, Twitch. I'm definitely going to be streaming for this War in the Pacific episode, so that's probably another 20 to 30 minutes, and then we may do some Starship Troopers after. There's some pretty bad storms that are supposed to roll through here in about an hour, though, so I don't know if we'll get to Starship Troopers or not. All right, Japanese bombardment attack here at Batavia. They're going to continue bombarding our troops there. They did it, I want to say, the last 2 turns. And it does look like maybe they're starting to fatigue our ground elements here, because this was their most successful bombardment yet. 93 casualties inflicted, 1 combat squad destroyed, 10 disabled. It's a little bit concerning to see that much success on the bombardment. The silver lining is we did destroy 1 of their guns in counter battery fire and 8 disabled, which, I mean, they have 194 guns, so to lose 10, I mean, that's what, 5% of their total artillery. That's not a great result for the Japanese on a gun perspective. Meanwhile, the 2 Japanese divisions at Clark Field are continuing to bombard the Filipino and American troops there. They do no damage. The defending force is considerably larger than the attackers. We have major supply problems, although I don't think that's apparent to the Japanese quite yet. Although I would think he kind of intuitively would know that, given it's late April, the Allies don't have a lot of supply left in the Philippines. And that's going to do it for the turn. So we're moving through to the fortification phase, moving the oil phase, some logistics, and we'll pull up the turn here in just a second. Looks like Tuyan expanded forts to 3, Karachi as well, and Astoria, which shouldn't matter, to 2. Okay, so let's take a look here at some information. If we go ahead and we take a look at the information chart, we can see 1 air-to-air loss for each side in air combat, 2 Japanese aircraft lost to flak, 3 to operational losses. Interesting that we didn't lose any op losses. I figured we would have lost some of those P-40s to operational losses, but just the one that was shot down in air-to-air combat. Meanwhile, the Japanese actually lost 2 Oscars, probably in that dogfight, 1 in air-to-air and 1 as an operational loss. 1 Kate lost to ops losses, 1 AN to flak, 1 Babs to flak, and that's about it here. So 6 aircraft to 1. I'll take 6 to 1 ratios every day. Not a single pilot lost yet. Did we get a second Dutch ace? We've got the 1. We've got LJ Snook is our 1 Dutch ace, it looks like, if I'm reading that right. I think. Yeah. I don't see a second Dutch ace here. We've got one guy who's MIA with 4 kills. We've got one guy who is alive with 4 kills. So we're close. Oh, we've got a third Dutch pilot with 4 kills as well. So we could get a second Dutch ace sometime soon, maybe, if they don't get obliterated at Batavia too soon. If we take a look at ship losses, I don't think anything happened last turn at sea, so no losses there. And if we take a look at Batavia, let's go ahead and look at the aircraft there. So 5 Warhawks are still combat operational. 4 of them are now damaged. 2 Hurricanes are operational. We could try and swap them out with Buffaloes if we really wanted to get like a full squadron of 12 aircraft, but they would be crappy aircraft, so that seems like a bad idea. The fatigue level is really low too because we've got so many pilots and only 2 planes. The aircraft fatigue levels are low too, so they must be new airframes. So they're in pretty good shape there. The Warhawks, the 5 ready, the 4 not. Yeah, it looks like one of those will be back tomorrow. The rest are going to be several more days. So that squadron is not in great shape from an aircraft readiness perspective. What's our pilot experience look like after that dogfighting? 3 pilots gained experience here up to level 63, 63, 61. So our Dutch pilots are actually pretty darn good. Almost the entire squadron is over 60 experience. We've got 1 ace in the P-40 squadron, 1 of the 4s. And then the Hurricane squadron, 1 guy gained experience, the other guy gained air skill. These guys are less experienced, only a couple are above 60. Okay. And we have none of the B-17s are repaired this turn, so we do have 9 B-17s that are damaged that we're trying to get out of here, so we can't transfer anybody else because none of them were repaired. We are trying to pull them back to Mandalay to get them out of there. You can see here that we've got about 20 B-17s. 13 of them are ready to fly if needed. The rest are all training out of there. They had been involved in the attack on Palembang. Meanwhile, in China, they bombed Guilin pretty consistently, although it was all the airfield, so I don't think the troops are in trouble. Airfield damage is 16. The runway, 7 service, 0 port. We're almost to level 4 forts at Guilin, so that's nice. Are we working on level 6 forts up here? We are. 25% of the way to level 6 forts at Chikigang. Man, there's only one place in China with level 6 forts right now, and that's Chongqing. And we can't go any further, I don't think, without considerably more supplies and maybe troops. So it's a ton of supply to expand beyond 6 forts, but it's a veritable fortress at 6. To have any other place in China at 6 with also good defensible terrain like Chikigang along a main center of advance, I think is a good position to be in. Cyan is going to be in a little bit of trouble because it looks like if we look at this little dot up here for this unit, he may be moving troops north now to try and flank us. So building additional forts at Cyan, probably not a great idea unless I just want to leave troops behind to die, because we are probably going to have to withdraw into the mountains once he makes his way up this dirt road, if that's the direction he goes, given that he can easily flank Cyan from the north. So we may have to pull those troops back, but not yet. No indication of advances in central or southern China yet for the troops there. He did bomb some of these guys. They did lose some casualties, but nothing too serious there. Clark Field, supply situation's getting pretty damn desperate. These guys have 300 for the 41st Division. They need 600, so it's at about 50% supply for some of these units. Some of them are worse. You say I allow the communists to die in northern China? I think I already suicide attacked most of them across this river up here in the north and got a lot of them killed. Meanwhile, looks like we still have carriers in port at Singapore. Intel says still over 200 ships in port at Singapore. No indication of him moving anything toward us through the Strait of Malacca. So it doesn't look like he's going to try and transit the Strait of Malacca up toward Kuala Lumpur and then up toward the Bay of Bengal. So the troops there may be safe. We should really expand the fort at Rangoon past level 3 forts, but we're working on the airfield right now. Goose forts are almost or are more than halfway to 4. Mine is working toward level 2 forts. It's currently at 1. No sign of any Japanese movements here in Burma. Batavia had like 43,000 supply, I want to say, last turn. Still has 43,000. The defenders still have over 1,000 assault value for the infantry there, about 1,100. That didn't really change much, even though we did lose some troops there. So nothing too worrisome there. We scoot down toward the Philippines. Nothing really going on there. I believe we upgraded most of our air groups at Bombay. So we pulled some of those air groups off the carriers. Take a look here. We still have, or we have these carrier groups almost ready to go. These guys have their Wildcats. Okay. Dauntlesses and Devastators. 32 Martlets. That's a goddamn huge fighter squadron for the British. I believe we resized them this turn. Not much in the way in the pool, but... And the pilots there, pretty... I mean, not bad. Decent. All above 50. Meanwhile, the battleship, I believe, the Repulse and the Indomitable are on the way. Maybe not. I'd have to double check. Maybe they're sitting... Are they still sitting at Colombo in port? No, I swear we moved them. There they are. Nope, wrong group. Where did I put them? I don't remember. Here they are. We've got the Illustrious, the Repulse, the Atlanta, some destroyers, and a fleet oiler, all on their way to Bombay up here. The Illustrious has 12 Swordfish and 24 Martlets. They basically, the British carriers, from an air group perspective, they functionally work as light carrier CVLs with better defenses. In terms of worth watching, Charcoal, there were some air battles over Batavia. There was some bombing in China. I wouldn't say there was a lot else that happened this turn. Oh, we did bomb the Japanese at down at Savi, inflicting pretty heavy losses on the defenders there. So they're down to about 2,300 troops. No air power. We are getting ready to land there, so we actually have an amphibious group that will begin loading up. Not these guys. Where did I put them? Did I put them in port? I need to pull them out. I need to get troops on ships. But yeah, these guys are all the cargo ships that are already loaded up with cargo. We've got a bombardment task force of heavy cruisers that's going to hit Savi next turn. And then I need to load. I've got an AP in port at Pago. So I think we're going to load probably the 8th Marine Regiment with its 142 assault value and land at Savi. I think they've already prepared for it, right? Yeah, they got 58 preparation for Savi. That's not bad. So we're going to load the 8th Marine Regiment up at Pago. We're going to go ahead and land them at Savi. And we'll probably, that'll be one of our first counterattacks. It won't be the first one. We actually have several task forces moving toward Midway at the moment. So we've got a fast transport group, which is going to land to the west of Midway, perhaps as early as this turn. If not this turn, then next turn. They have not yet been discovered. They're moving an extreme overcast or fast group of troop transport destroyers carrying the 3rd 298th Infantry Battalion. We also have a aircraft carrier group up here with the USS Hornet. Clicked on the wrong button. USS Hornet here moving in with 4 Dauntless dive bomber groups. Those are going to be much more efficient at knocking out enemy airfields and things like that than Devastators. It's one of the reasons we switch these around. We've got 2 Marine squadrons, 2 Navy squadrons here moving in with the Hornet, plus the 27 Wildcat fighters. So that basically makes 27 fighters and then 63 bombers. In addition to them, we have a anti-submarine task force following the carriers to give them some additional support. Likewise, these guys are moving through thunderstorms right now, and so as a result, we've gotten this far north toward Midway, and no one has detected us yet. Additionally, we have another ASW task force down here, and we've got a bombardment task force moving to Midway. This bombardment task force is massive. It consists of 7 battleships, flagshipped by the Mississippi, but it even includes a British battleship, the Warspite. So 6 Pearl Harbor survivors, and then we've got the Warspite, which came in from Canada. We also have a replenishment group here with 1 fleet oiler, the Neosho, to keep these guys fighting fit. We have a seaplane tender and some extra ammunition on these AKEs that is heading toward Curry Island. So once the fast transport unit moves up here, they're going to land at Curry. That's going to allow us to take this base, this anchorage here. We will then sit the AKEs in at Curry, and then we will set up a shuttle bombardment, replenishing ammo at Curry Island, and then we will bombard Midway to dust. We will have the aircraft carriers provide support and make sure that no local land-based aircraft threaten us. Meanwhile, a few days after landing at Curry, we will load those troops back up for an assault on Midway, and then we will also bring in the 1st 298th Infantry Battalion down here, which is also preparing for a landing. They're going to go straight to Midway, so we'll land at Midway with 2 groups or 2 battalions of infantry. We have a base force that is on the way to Curry Island as well, the 109th USN Base Force, and so they will begin turning this dot base into a real base after we take it over. And then we have a 3rd Infantry Battalion here also moving up. So we have 3 infantry battalions, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of the 298th, that will either move toward Curry or they will move toward Midway. I will guess those 2 will actually land on Midway, and then the fast transport will be reloaded up and land there as well. So we will have a combined assault on Midway. The assault will probably begin next turn. I don't know if we want to sprint the battleships in. We could make it to Midway this turn, but they won't. They'll use their ammo this turn, and then Curry Island won't be in our control yet for them to withdraw to. I'm inclined to speed the transports along their way, let the battleships lumber in. They haven't been detected yet. None of these ships have been detected yet, so he has no idea these guys are coming, unless there was some sort of bad luck, intelligence, break or crack or something where he figured it out. But I don't think so. So these guys are all going to be moving in. I think what we'll do is we'll probably sprint the transports in, take Kerr Island this turn. Next turn, our battleships and aircraft carriers will be very close to Midway. He will probably detect them, although I'm guessing he doesn't have any air power to directly threaten us. And then the following turn, we could begin bombing Midway into dust. Either that or we could go with the battleships now and wreck any aircraft he has on the ground now, but then we'd have like a 2-turn delay probably before we'd be able to bombard again. Not too worried about the carriers because the enemy carriers last we spotted, like they were all at Singapore as of like 3 or 4 days ago, or maybe a week ago. But even so, they're at least, I would guess, 2 weeks away from Midway. So this whole thing at Midway should be over, I would guess, in the next 5, maybe 7 days, depending on how quick those transports can move up. I don't think his ships could arrive before 2 weeks because he can't flank them there because he doesn't have the fuel probably. It's a long distance to go. He'll wreck his cruise system in readiness if he does that. So I would guess 10 days at the earliest. We should have Midway wrapped up in 6 to 7 days at the latest. And then we'll have 3 days to withdraw back to Pearl. We also do have fleet oilers going with us, so we can sprint away if needed to get away more quickly. He could send a detachment of surface vessels or like CVLs or something like that that maybe we haven't detected. Not too worried about that. So I'm thinking, depending on what his ground force is at Midway, like if he's got, I don't know, if he's got like a regiment there, maybe he can hold, but I'm going to guess he doesn't. So I think we'll take Midway. We will take Savi. And so we've got those 2 bases likely to rejoin the Allies soon. I'd also like to make a play for Canton Island, but I may have to wait to take Savi first. The goal would really be to push our perimeter out to Baker, Canton, Savi, Wallace, Horn, and then in toward Fiji to reestablish the Fiji line east of New Caledonia, and then maybe eventually make some short little Johnson toward Funafuti and Vaidapu because they're both pretty isolated from other Japanese positions. But definitely retaking Canton and Savi will solidify our strategic line of communications from any enemy recon aircraft, and then Midway will serve as a nice stopping over point for submarines making deployments to the Japanese home waters, and so that'll be a nice little base to retake, and that'll be the beginning of the Allied counteroffensive. Don't think we're anywhere near ready to launch a major counteroffensive anywhere else. These are just kind of going to be pinpricks, but they will be useful pinpricks, and they will begin turning back the tide, getting us kind of back close, at least in the Central Pacific, to the historical front lines before the Allied counterattack starts in 43. Air complement on the other carriers, like standard, it's 27 fighters, 27 dive bombers, and 27 torpedo bombers, roughly. So like we've changed the complement on the Hornet a fair bit. We've changed it on a lot of these aircraft carriers here. Lexington has Devastators, but we also added a British Albacore section here because we have extra space for additional aircraft. So we added a Royal Air Force unit here to the Lexington. What else do we have? Just to give us, like, these Albacores give us an actual torpedo bomber squadron with working torpedoes, which the Devastators don't have. So we've got 30 torpedo bombers here. We only have 30 torpedoes on the ship, though. So that's the other thing. It's like, in theory, we can up armor or up gun our squadrons, but like you only carry a certain amount of torpedoes on the ship, so you're limited. You know, instead of, if it was one squadron of 15, we could have 2.5 airstrikes worth of torpedoes before running out of torpedoes. In this case, we've got one major strike and then half a reload for one of the groups. Although I'd be tempted to just give the Devastators bombs because of how bad the American torpedoes are. Meanwhile, on the Enterprise, this is closer to a normal complement here. 36 dive bombers, 27 fighters, and 15 torpedo bombers. I don't know how good the Albacore pilots are. Let's take a look. Decent. Pretty much all above 50 in terms of experience. Naval bombing is well above 60 for almost all of them. So pretty good. But yeah. So that's the major thing. Like, we're prepping for our counterattack and getting in toward Midway, Savi, and whatnot. Not sure I have anything else. We do have one other thing to call out. Where's the 41st Division? I will have enough points to unlock another division from reserves right now. So the 41st Infantry Division is currently locked to the West Coast. It's in a reserve headquarters unit. That's not, I don't think, what I wanted, right? Maybe it's not the 41st. So they have 248. Is it the 41st or is it someone else? We have two Marine regiments here at, by the way, at San Diego, the 9th and the 7th, that are both assigned to Pacific Ocean areas here at 142 assault each. They're all part of the 1st Marine Division. In 20 days, we'll get the 7th is part of the 1st Marine Division. In 20 days, we'll get the 5th and 1st Marines. So I'm tempted to leave the 7th here until the 1st and 5th arrive. Once they arrive, then we can get the 1st Marine Division formed, which will be pretty frickin' awesome. And then what was the other one here? The 9th, which is part of the 3rd Marine Division, which has 2 more regiments arriving, but they won't be arriving for over 4 months. So that one I'd be more inclined to use sooner rather than later, the 9th, to do something. Not sure what, but maybe something. So that's 2 Marine regiments chilling in San Diego. We also have the 147th and 24th separate infantry regiments already assigned to the South Pacific. So we've got 4 regiments right now that in theory we could deploy forward. Guadalcanal might be a stretch like a G-Men, given that we also lost New Caledonia. We'd be operating pretty well beyond our limits. The Rifles of Canada Battalion with our Canadian Infantry section. I've already got enough points to change their headquarters. Could do that now, get the Canadians in the fight. Create a Canadian Corps or a Canadian division. We already have a brigade, I want to say, of Canadian troops deployed for it. I don't think the Canadians deployed any troops forward in the Pacific at all. But we took one division, or one, not a division, but we took, where are they? We took the 1st Canadian Brigade, assigned it to the Southwest Pacific. They have 129 assault value, so a good size unit, 1,200 infantry, 1,700 support, but they're all militia. But still, it's a brigade of troops. Not a lot of Canadian stuff like a G-Men. Certainly not much infantry. Oh, we're a long way from home, eh? I can't do a Canadian accent. But yeah. So that's the situation there. Someone asked if we could reform the Midway, I don't know, base force. I've already done that. No, I haven't. Or maybe I don't know. I see Canton and Wake. I don't see Midway. I don't even remember what they had as defensive troops. But with that being said, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of War in the Pacific, Admirals Edition, my Let's Play series against Hartwig. Hope you guys are enjoying the series. Please leave your thoughts down below. And as always, until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.